I am 76 years old, 38 years in the steel mill, 22 seasons of Little League, 4 children I would have died for without blinking. And I need to tell you something that will change how you think about the person sleeping next to you tonight. My name is Walter James Brody, Clayton, Pennsylvania, 1949. And this is not a story I wanted to tell, but God pressed it on me so heavy that staying quiet started to feel like a sin. So, pull up a chair. Elaine was 22 when I married her. Lord, she was something. Laughed with her whole body. Smelled like cocoa butter and rose water. When she walked into a room, I forgot every other thing I was thinking about. We married in June 1971. And I gave that woman everything I had, every paycheck, every Saturday, every ounce of loyalty I possessed. We had Marcus, then Denise, then Kevin, then little Patricia, 4 children. My whole chest walking around outside my body. I was not a perfect husband. I want to say that plainly. I worked long hours. I came home tired. There were years when the mill took more from me than I had left to give. I know that, I own that, but I was faithful. In 46 years of marriage, I was never once unfaithful to that woman. I assumed the same was true of her. The first thing I noticed, and I say noticed loosely, because at the time I filed it away and locked the drawer, was a phone call. Elaine was in the kitchen. I came in quietly from the garage, and she was standing at the counter, back to me, voice low. Not whispering, just contained. The way you talk when the conversation is not for anyone else. She heard me come in and she turned round and said, "That was Carol, her college friend Carol." I said, "Okay," and I went upstairs. But something small, quiet, the size of a splinter, went in under my skin that evening and stayed there. Over the next few years, small things accumulated. A name Dennis that appeared once in a conversation, and then never again, like she'd caught herself. A weekend trip to see her sister that her sister years later mentioned she couldn't remember. A password changed on a phone she'd never locked before. Each thing alone, nothing. Each thing together, a picture I didn't want to develop. Because here is what a man does when he loves someone and doesn't want his world to be what he suspects it is. He becomes very good at not asking questions. He works longer hours. He coaches more Little League. He fills his life with purpose so he doesn't have to sit still long enough to feel what's sitting beside him. I was an expert at not sitting still for years. In 2019, Elaine was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. And I want you to understand what I did. I want you to understand who I was. I took leave from my part-time consulting work. I drove her to every appointment. I sat in every waiting room. I held her hand through every treatment. I shaved my own head when she lost her hair, so she wouldn't feel alone. Because whatever I suspected, whatever splinter had been in my skin for 10 years, she was my wife. And I had made a promise, and I am a man who keeps his promises. She went into remission in 2021, And 3 months after her final clear scan, while I was thanking God for giving her back to me, Elaine quietly packed a bag and she left. No argument, no build-up, no warning I was prepared for. She left a note on the kitchen table. It said, "Walter, I am sorry. I have loved someone else for a very long time. I cannot keep pretending. You deserve to know the truth. I am not able to give it to you in person. I stood in that kitchen for a long time, the same kitchen where I had eaten 10,000 meals, where my children had done homework and spilled juice and argued about nothing, where I had stood the night before and made us both coffee and thought we made it through. The cancer, the fear, all of it, we made it. I stood there and I read that note 3 times. And then I folded it and I put it in my shirt pocket, right against my chest. And I sat down on the kitchen floor, not in a chair, the floor, because my legs made a decision without consulting me. My son Marcus found me there an hour later. He'd come by to drop off groceries, something he did every Sunday. He walked in the back door and found his father sitting on the kitchen linoleum like a man whose wiring had given out. He didn't ask questions. He just sat down on the floor beside me. That boy, that 41-year-old man who still calls me every Sunday, sat on that cold kitchen floor next to his father and didn't say a word. It was Marcus who suggested the DNA test, not with suspicion. He said it gently, said maybe knowing the full truth, whatever it was, would be better than the fog I was living in. I agreed, more out of exhaustion than anything else. We did all 4 children. The results came back on a Thursday morning. I was alone. I opened the email and I read it and I read it again, and the floor shifted. Not like before, not the quiet shift of a foundation settling. This was different. This was the whole ground opening up. This was 46 years of certainty, turning to air beneath my feet all at once. 0%. Not one of them. Not Marcus, who sat on the floor with me. Not Denise, who has my mother's eyes, or what I always believed were my mother's eyes. Not Kevin. Not Patricia. 0%. For all 4. I closed the laptop. I walked outside. I sat on the porch steps where I had watched my children ride bicycles, and I looked at the street, and I felt something I do not have a complete word for. It was not rage. Rage has heat. This had no heat. It was the cold, specific feeling of a man who has just understood that the story he told himself about his own life, the main story, the one that made everything else make sense, was not the story that was actually happening. Telling the children was the hardest thing I have ever done. Harder than the note. Harder than the results. Harder than any shift, any midnight at the mill, any hospital waiting room, because I had to sit across from 4 people who called me Dad and tell them that the man who raised them had just discovered he was the last person in the room to know the truth about his own family. Marcus cried first. This man, 6'2", former Army, put his face in his hands at my kitchen table and cried like a boy. Denise went quiet in a way that scared me. She didn't speak for most of the conversation. She just looked at the table. And when she finally looked up, she said, "Daddy, you are still our father. Don't you let anybody take that from you. Don't you dare. Kevin got angry, not at me. He got up and left the room, and I could hear him in the hallway, and I let him have it because anger was the right response, and he was entitled to every second of it. And Patricia, my youngest, she came round the table, and she held my face in her hands the way I used to hold hers when she was small and afraid. She said, "Dad, we knew who loved us. We always knew." I want to tell you something about that moment. I have worked 38 years in a steel mill. I have carried heavy things, literal and otherwise. Nothing has ever broken me open the way my daughter's hands on my face broke me open in that moment. Not the note, not the results, not 46 years of a lie. Her hands, her voice, we always knew. You want to know about Elaine? I understand. You have been patient, and you deserve the truth of it. She went to him, the man she had been running toward for decades while I was running toward her. It lasted 8 months. He left her. She called me on a Sunday evening in the fall. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. I let it go. The third time, I picked up. She talked for a long time. She explained things. She apologized. She said she had been living with the guilt for years and that the cancer had made her feel like she was going to die with it unconfessed. And that leaving was the only honest thing she knew how to do. I listened to all of it, and when she was finished, I said, "Elaine, I hope you find peace. I genuinely mean that, but I am 76 years old, and I have very little time left for conversations that should have happened 30 years ago." And I hung up. That was the last time we spoke. She did not get away clean. Nobody does. She is living with what she did, and she will live with it the rest of her life, and that is not my burden to carry for her. The truth has a way of catching everyone. It is slow sometimes, but it does not miss. Now, I have told you my story, and I need to tell you why. Not for sympathy, not for spectacle. For you, the young one watching, the newly married one, the one who thinks love alone is enough armor. Here is my metaphor, and I need you to sit inside it. When I worked the mill, we had an instrument, a stress gauge. You press it against steel, and it tells you where the weakness is. Where the metal is taking strain, it isn't showing on the surface. Good steel looks fine long before it fails. The failure was always happening invisibly, quietly, before anyone saw the crack. A marriage without honesty is steel with hidden stress fractures. It looks fine, it holds weight, it performs, until one day, without warning, it doesn't. The gauge was always there. The question is whether you were willing to press it. To the young man watching, choose someone whose private life matches their public one. Pay attention to small inconsistencies, not with paranoia, but with respect for what they're telling you. Trust is not blindness. Trust is a choice made with open eyes. Build a marriage where the truth can live out loud, where your partner can tell you hard things and you can survive them together. Because the alternative, the sealed rooms, the locked phones, the years of performance, the alternative is a Tuesday in February at 76 years old, reading an email on a kitchen table with nobody beside you. And to any man sitting right now inside a story that feels like mine, the accumulating silences, the questions you've been choosing not to ask, ask them. I know you're afraid of the answer. I know. But you are spending your life one day at a time on a debt you didn't choose. And you deserve to know what you're actually paying for. I am 76 years old. My children call me every Sunday. My grandchildren climb on me like furniture they own. I am not the man I thought I was, and I am more than I was afraid I'd be without her. The river of my love ran over those 4 children for 46 years. It shaped them. It smoothed the rough places. It ran faithfully without drama or conditions. The river didn't need permission from the biology, and the biology cannot undo what the river made. I'm Walter James Brodie, Clairton, Pennsylvania, born 1949. This is my testimony, not the version I planned, the true one. Hold your people close. Tell the truth while you still have time to tell it. And if you are young, if you are just starting, build something real. Because real is the only thing that holds. Go on now.